Oh my gosh. Did you see that? Holy cow. Whatever that was came up and exploded on it. Well, we'll find out in a minute what that fish was that hit me. I threw back in there with my spinnerbait. Oh yeah, it's a nice bass. Nice bass. Little Rainbow Lake spinnerbait bass. Look at that, folks. That's what exploded on that buzzbait. The old 1-2 punch got him. Look at that. Beautiful 2+ pound fish right there. Beautiful fish. Look how thick they are. Rainbow Lake in the beautiful white mountains of Arizona where I live. I've said this before, I'll say it again. This is where I learned my ABCs of bass fishing right here. I grew up fishing, walking the banks of this lake before these houses were even here. This used to be a big field, but let me throw that back out there again. Seemed like the fish was bigger that hit the buzzbait. But this lake is a lot of fun to fish. Like I said, it's changed though. They put grass carp in here to get rid of all the grass, and we used to have a lot of grass in here, a lot of weeds, and it was a lot of fun to fish. It still is. It's just, you gotta think differently. The lake has changed. It's a whole new lake for me too. And what I mean by that is I used to be able to go through here with like weightless lizards and Cincos and things, and you can still do that, but a lot of the weeds are gone. And so these fish are more relating to, say, rock, you know, some structure out and about, some trees, stumps, things like that, the docks, tons of docks on this lake. And this has only happened in the last few years. So, you know, as much fun as I've had on this lake throwing the baits and getting accustomed to, you know, throwing the baits that I like to throw, I got to change stuff up a little bit, but a bass is a bass still no matter where you go. And if the conditions are right, you can catch them on a buzzbait, a spinnerbait. And I'm going to go back to that buzzbait only because I got that huge blow up. If we can get some nice topwater fish at the morning, that's what I'd like to do. I'm throwing just a black and blue buzzbait with a little chartreuse grub trailer. And the other thing about this lake that's really different is it used to be ultra clear, a real nice clear lake because of all the weeds. Now that all the grass carp are in here and they've taken all the weeds out, it's kind of a muddy, well, stained lake. You can see maybe a foot down. So in saying that, you got to change things up a little bit. And the clear water stuff that we were throwing is a little bit different now but this lake is very shallow. So in saying that, you know, these fish aren't going very far. They'll be around. What I like to do is cover some water first thing in the morning. We're here early in the morning. Beautiful morning. We got a cloud cover. You know, a lot of flooding going on, and we caught a little break in between the clouds. We figured we'd try to get out and make something happen today. And so we're going to cover a little bit of water to see what happens. See if we can catch us a couple of fish and figure these fish out today. Oh, there's a nice one. Oh, I lost him. It was a pike. It's a big old pike, man. That was a big pike. Man, he got me good. He wanted it. Oh, I can't believe it. Right there at the boat. There's big pike in this lake too, and we've been trying to get them out for years, but you just never know when you're gonna get one. You know, a lot of people ask me what kind of line I like to use. I use a 50-pound braid on my buzzbait. It's perfect. It slings good. There's absolutely no stretch, which means your rod has to take up for a little bit of that. And this Taipan rod I'm using, it's made for the buzzbait. I love it. It's has a good tip on it, and that's the deal, is if you're gonna throw braid with no stretch, you gotta have a rod that's got a good tip on it. Take a look at this tip. It's got, you can see the backbone of the rod, but where it bends, you know, you got enough tip to where it allows the bait to be sucked in by the bass when he originally hits it, if you don't get too overzealous. And if you're gonna throw, you know, a braid line, especially for a buzzbait, you definitely want a little bit of a tip on your rod. That way when they first initially hit it, they flare their gills, they inhale the bait. It gives them time to inhale the bait and turn. And I still have enough backbone here with my rod to be able to set the hook really hard on him, but it allows, that tip allows him to kind of take it in a little bit. That's very important. You don't want to be throwing a heavy rod with braid line on a buzzbait unless you're so good where you don't get a little overzealous and set the hook as soon as you see the original boil. And that's another thing that's very important to remember about a buzzbait. It's even hard for me, man. I get excited. But as soon as you see the boil on your bait, you got to be able to react a little bit slower, you know, and give the fish time to grab the bait and turn. Because if you yank it as soon as you see the blow up, then a lot of times you miss the fish. And one thing that will help you when you're throwing a buzzbait for the first time, it's a lot of fun to watch the blow-ups, but you might look away from the bait. That way when you first initially hear the sound, it'll give you time to, you know, you might catch the fish. So a few little things like that will help you out in catching these fish on a buzzbait, especially if you're new at it. My water temperature is around 65, 66 degrees today. Up here in the White Mountains, we're actually in the fall season. You know, October is a fun month. End of September, October is a fun month for a buzzbait or a spinnerbait up here. You can just cover a lot of water and have a lot of fun. Fish are a little bit more active. It's not so hot because, contrary to popular belief, even though we live in the White Mountains, these lakes are small, they're shallow, and they do, without a doubt, get warm. And the fish will shut down just like on any other lake. The other main thing about these lakes up here is you have to remember during the summer when you come up, if we don't have cloud cover, your pH goes up. When the pH goes up, the fish don't want to bite. So these little lakes are really, really sensitive to that kind of deal with the pH. So a little cloud cover really helps. We've got that today. We got a little bit of a front blowing through the last couple of days. That helps a little bit. Now, mark my words, when this front's done blowing through, it's gonna be a couple of days before these fish want to bite again. It's tough enough as it is, but you know, we have to cover water with the trolling motor on this lake. You can take your big bass boats out here, but you can't fire the big motor. It's a 10-horse motor only. And one thing to remember about that is you have to cover water. So even if you find them like we did on the rock banks, like where we're fixing to go over there, I still have to go around some of this marshy stuff, this, I call them the bulrushes, the reeds, whatever you want to call them. I got to go around these little areas and I'll just cover some water. You never know, you might get what I call a fluke fish, you know, and just cover a little bit of water. Get back up to those rocks. As soon as we get back up to them rocks, I'm going to make some casts and we're going to go down the bank because we're finding them on rock. And I think that's, without having weeds in this lake, they're going to more relate around the rock banks and things like that. This has more of a muddy bottom to it, this lake does. So with saying that, you know, finding stuff like this in these docks, we'll probably catch a few fish doing this. Oh, there's a good one. There's a good one on that buzzbait. Come on, baby. Come on, little buzzbait bass. I don't want to lose him. Look at the size of that fish, folks. Oh, yeah, look at that. Look at that fish, folks. Bigger than the last one. Look at that. Beautiful buzzbait bass. Right there, baby, that's the ticket. That is the ticket. Oh, he tore me up pretty good. Oh, yeah. You know, one of the reasons I like the black buzzbait on this lake And I actually use it on quite a few lakes. It's been kind of a, well, everybody's been going to it now. I've been using it for so many years, but it's just one of those deals that looks like a little bug coming across the water, but plus it has that dark silhouette in that muddier water, and I like it with that little chartreuse grub tail. Kind of might remind them of a bluegill that's having issues getting across the top of the water. All that is a laser eye buzzbait from Bass Pro Shops too. And I'm going to show you some tricks today, a little tip of the week coming up in a little while on this bait that you're going to like. But right now, we're going to throw out there and get us another bass. Man, there is nothing more fun than when they crush that buzzbait. Nothing more fun. Got bit. Got him. Oh, I lost him. I just lost a fish right here, a nice fish right here throwing my little Texas rig worm. When things start slowing down a little bit, even when the wind's blowing, we've covered the lake quite a bit. But I like to stop and start popping these docks a little bit, especially when the sun comes up. So always remember when you're on Rainbow Lake, you know, and you're fishing a lot of docks, they might not be good in the morning. I like to cover as much water as I can with a reaction bait, the buzz bait, the spinner bait, things like that. And then when the sun comes up, start working the docks a little bit, and you might get a little bit of a reward from it. I know we just broke off a good one here, and the lake's been tough by all means. The wind's getting pretty bad. We kind of tucked into this little deal here, and it's hard to fish this stuff right now, but man, that was a good fish. It was a real good fish. You know, one thing I do like to tell people though, like when you're throwing your spinner bait, throw a 14 to 17 pound test line. Make sure, I like to use fluorocarbon line. That way when you're throwing that particular bait, there's less stretch in it, and you got a lot of power with that 14 to 17 pound test line. The other thing is, same thing, when we're throwing jigs, worms, things like that, I like to use a heavy action rod like this, and I'll use a 14 to 17 pound test line in here as well. If I'm throwing my Cincos and my weightless baits, I go down to about 10, you know, 10 to 12. This water's a little murky, so you can get away with a little bit bigger line. And that's another thing to remember. The clearer the water, the lighter the line you want to try to get away with when you're throwing your worms and your weightless stuff. But as it's dinged up like this, you can go to a little bit heavier line, that 14, 17 pound test line. That way when you do get them, sometimes you don't always get them out of there. He powered me up under there and just cut me off like no tomorrow. But anyways, that's kind of the scoop. You know, this lake's not very big. I've learned a lot from this lake. One thing I have learned, one thing that's really important to remember about fishing, when you get on big lakes, you break them down into little lakes like the size of Rainbow or Shoalo Lake or Fool Hollow. That's how I went down to Roosevelt and went down to the bigger lakes, is I started breaking them down into certain sections of the lake. That way you don't feel like you got to cover the whole body of water, something that huge. You break it down. Find the rock piles, find the stumps, find the areas that hold fish in the little areas that you decide you're going to fish. Then move on to the next section and work that section. It'll help you a ton in your fishing. You'll catch a lot of fish that way. Hey folks, for my tip of the week, the one thing I got to tell you that I tell you I like the Bass Pro buzz baits, they're awesome. But you know, any buzz bait you get out of the box, number one of the things I like to do is I don't like throwing it straight out of the box. A lot of times I like to get a good squeak on it. So number one, I pull it out of the package. I find a way to get the wind blowing on this thing, hanging out the window, whatever you got to do, and get that thing where it's really almost down to its last leg, is what I always say. Normally I can't get through a whole day of buzz baiting without eventually breaking the blade off because I've worn it out so much, but that's when I get my best squeak off of it. The other thing is when you want to slow roll it like what I'm doing across the top, I try to keep my buzz bait, especially in the muddier water, coming across about as slow as I can with a good bloop, 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 you know? And so with doing that, I like to cup the blade a little bit. So when you first get them out of the package, they run fine, they'll work. But what I like to do is just take my thumb and just kind of bend the blade down just a little bit, right where the cup is, pull the blade down a little bit. And what that does, they're made out of aluminum, and what that does is it allows you to ride the bait a little bit slower on top of the water, and you'll actually get a lot more bites, and you'll be able to run it a lot slower on top of the water. That's my tip of the week. There's one. There's one. Nice spinnerbait fish off those rocks. Nice spinnerbait fish off them rocks. Here he comes. All right, son, come on. You're done. Oh, I got that light wire spinnerbait on. See how it stretches that spinnerbait out? You got to be real careful with that. Get over here. Even with that little guy. Still a nice fat chunk right there. Nice fat chunk. We decided to come back through where we were buzzbaiting. We went all the way throughout the whole lake. It's kind of really shallow, and you know, these fish want to hang out in the rocks. I'll fish it for sure, but look what they do to your light wire spinnerbait. This is one of the reasons you got to play them out a little bit. Boy, when that line gets caught up in those blades like that, that's a good way to lose a fish when you stretch it all the way out. I'll retie and bring that back down and just retie the bait. Always make sure that your blades are running true when you straighten your bait back out as well. And what I mean by that is you want the wire and the blades to come completely over the body of straight over the hook, just like a clothespin. If it's not, you need to tweak it a little bit. Something else too is that if you have it way low, if you're burning a bait in clear water, you can kind of pinch down on the wire a little bit, get the blades a little bit closer to the hook, and that way you can burn it without it rolling. But when you're slow rolling it, you can spread the wire out just a little bit, and you can get a nice slow thunk out of it. And that's what I love about fishing this kind of a bait right here. But always make sure it's running true. Well, the wind's kicking up pretty hard. I got us tucked into a little bay right now, but we're gonna have to get out of here. But I'll tell you what, try Rainbow Lake, get up here to the beautiful White Mountains. This is fall fishing here. It's a lot better than the spring, let me tell you. But we had some fun, caught some nice fish, and there's a lot of fish to be had here. This isn't the kind of lake you're gonna come to though and catch 30 or 40 fish, but the bites you normally get are gonna be the good ones. Thanks for joining us on the show today. We'll see you next week. I'm Johnny Johnson.
Now, see, that's what I'm talking about, folks.